Cults are more or less exclusive sects of worshippers. Religious sects that don't quite have the followership to be a religion yet. Or maybe a part of a grander religion, a cult worshipping a respective god in a pantheon. In fantasy fiction, cults tend to be more antagonistic usually. Harbingers of doom, of the dark gods, of what other evil might lurk out there, and so on and so on. The issue is that cults turn out to be uninteresting and bland, more often than not. A cabal of mindless cultists that do comically evil stuff for the sake of being comically evil. The cult's vast majority of members are cultists for no particular reason, faceless worshippers. The cult's leaders are usually blinded by the promises of the dark god they try to summon, hoping to gain something out of the world's end other than, well, the complete annihilation of everything. For you to create a cult that is more interesting, fresh, and most importantly, filled with personality for your setting, no matter if as antagonists or not, just ask yourself a set of questions I'll post during the length of this video. Have in mind that I'm going to focus less on the religious aspects on cults and more on the organizational parts. If you want to create a religion, watch my video about creating religions. I only do this rarely, but there's an obvious question zero I must talk about before getting to real questions. The goals, think about them first. The cult's goals are the reason why it exists. No matter if it's an actual religious organization that exists to worship a god or to have a more sinister end for the world. The cult's goals are paramount to everything else. Even the most boring of cults have a goal. Even the cults that have idiotic goals have a goal. If you want to see a cult with idiotic and overdone goals, take a look at the Cult of the Dragon in the Dungeons & Dragons 5e Tyranny of Dragons adventure modules. They are pretty much a negative example of everything on today's list. Question 1. What kind of people does your cult attract? The people are what makes the cult, so think about them first. The people are the very heart of the cult, no matter how powerful their object of worship is. The people influence the cult's directions, the cult's decision making, and the daily life within the cult. This question involves all possible rank and files of the possible structures of the cult. Think about the cult's leaders as much as about the cult's followers, from the dregs to the upper echelon. Think about where and what kind of people are recruited into the cult, from which social standings their membership comes from, and why this particular kind of people are attracted to join the cult more than others. Modern scam cults are out for nothing but other people's money, and they are a good example of why people might join a cult, even if the cult's goals are a bit destructive. People might feel isolated and alone. They might have certain issues the cult promises to solve. In the cult, they hope for camaraderie, for the power and possibilities to fight through their struggles. But this might not be all. More well-off people might join cults. The allure of secrecy and exclusivity might pull them in. The allure for possible gains and power, even if it's just connection, might do them well too. The leadership, however, should not be lured in. The leadership should feel like they are at the center of it all. A cult's leader, no matter if they are scamming their disciples or not, should feel like they are in control. Like they are either already winning the prize, or they may feel like they are about to win the prize. Promises of power and wealth should be put in front of the members, like a carrot on a stick, but not in front of the leaders. Leaders and followers too, by the way, do have their own mind and will. Their personal goals might be misaligning with whatever goals the cult has. In the end, the cult might just be a cover for different people's goals. Question 2. How is your cult structured? How do they ensure their exclusivity? And how are people introduced into the cult? Technically, these are 3 questions, but never mind. Your cult structure is very likely the thing that stands out the most about your cult. It's what your readers or your players see for the first time when introduced to the cult. Players and readers are introduced to followers that try to recruit. They encounter cultists who conduct evil rituals, preachers or others that try to evangelize, and they find the leadership that lead the masses or stand in the protected far back while the masses of the cult attack helpless civilians. For the structure, cults can be split into different cells that are exclusive to each other except for the leadership. Secrecy might be a key part of the cult's survival, or the cult might be organized closer to a religion. Its goals may be a bit more destructive. Or in that case, the cult could be organized like a guerrilla army or a terrorist organization, especially if their goals are more destructive. The cult's initiation is reflected by the secrecy. Members might not even know they are introduced into a cult, or they might have to apply but don't know of its secrets, or the cult is known far and wide, actively attracting people but not necessarily evangelizing people. A cult that tries to keep itself hidden from the world recruits their members in a different way than a cult that is openly known. Question 3. What are the objects of worship, the rituals and the aesthetics of your cult? People associate fantasy cults with dark hooded people with pale skin, sometimes with some weird runic tattoos in their faces, or even worse, some sort of shown corruption upon them. People associate cultists with virgin-killing maniacs that kill virgins in the sewers where they summon the virgin killer god to kill even more virgins in virgin-killing rituals. That's another negative example, by the way. Please don't do this. There's no reason for cultists having dark hoods, for all of them to look like wretched beings who haven't seen the sun for years. A cult that is blooming and bright might just be as frightening. And even if it's a darker aesthetic you want to serve, at least ditch the hoods and the zombie-like appearance of most cultists. Just make them look like normal people that also happen to be cultists. Similar things can be said about the rituals. Virgin-killing rituals in of itself aren't an issue. Just think about more than that. Rituals are a large part of a cult, but it's more about the constant repetition of religious practices in favor of a common goal. Think of many different kinds of rituals and keep the sacrifices rare and few for special occasions and such. And speaking of sacrifices, the object of worship, especially if it's a dark lord, a demon king, a god or whatever they try to resurrect, make these more into a secret only known by the very few leaders of the cult. Make their members believe into something other than the dark bringer of the apocalypse if you have to have such a god. Make the cultists believe in something more substantial, something that they can grasp right now, that isn't currently imprisoned or sleeping. A powerful figure of worship that might not even exist and is just a front for the dark god or whatever. That's it for today's video, world builders. I don't have a particular example this week because I don't have cults like these in my world really. I have mystery cults, but they are more like religions anyway. So if you like the video, like and subscribe. And tell me in the comments about your cults. See ya.